Hey YouTube, Apostle Stacey Woods here, and you're watching Diamonds into Stacey. How is everyone doing today? Hmm? Doing okay? Good. Oh, me? Yeah, I'm doing great. Enjoying Jesus and all his joys. I am here because I have had several requests, several topics to do videos, and I want to just take care of some of those video requests now. Today is my off day. As you can see, I have been relaxing. Yes, after running a lot of errands for the ministry, now I have a few moments to relax before it is time for me to prepare for the rest of the week. But I wanted to come and, like I said, share with you some of the video topics, questions people wanted me to cover. I am recovering from being very hoarse, so bear with me because all weekend I was working my voice and doing what we do. And so now my voice is gradually coming back. Um, but anyway, let me get into the video topics because I have a lot of things that I want to cover. And so here we go. A pastor writes, here are some questions. What surprised you about being an apostle? What previous perceptions or ideas of your own were changed as you actually walked in the office? What has been your main encouragement and disappointment? What is the biggest the biggest lesson you've learned? Okay, so let's take the first question. What surprised me about being an apostle? Well, I can honestly say that I didn't really know what to expect as far as being an apostle because I didn't have a lot of people around me who walked closely, to me as an apostle. So, everything surprised me. Everything was a learning experience. Everything was an opportunity. Everything was new, literally. The song, you make all things new. Yes, you make all things new, and I will follow you forward. That was like my theme song because everything was new. Everything was a surprise. Everything was just a fresh experience, a new encounter. Yeah, so everything became new. It was almost as if I had to journey back through spiritual infancy, but yet um, I was going through it as a leader. So, yeah, everything was a surprise. Okay, what previous perceptions or ideas of your own were changed as you actually walked in the office? Okay, like I said before, I didn't really have a whole lot of examples to walk before me. There were a few people that I knew that were apostles, but prior to me becoming an apostle, I really thought an apostle and a bishop were pretty much the same thing. That they would have a huge following, a big church, that they were well seasoned, older people, preferably men. And so when God called me as an apostle, I was like, okay, I'm not considered old by the world standards. I'm certainly not a man, never will be, never want to be. Certainly don't have thousands of church members following me. And yeah, so that was a preconceived thing that apostles, oh, and that apostles were like really established people in ministry that were wealthy and that were able to travel the world exclusively without the aid of an outside job, but just people that did ministry um, exclusively. And that was my perception. And it definitely changed as I walked and as I am walking out this journey as an apostle. I'm learning that um, the crowds of the people only come sporadically. Sometimes you preach to a crowd, other times you'll preach to a few seats, and you got to preach the same way and remain consistent. Um, Another thing I had no idea of was the amount of sacrifice that it would require for me to walk in this office. I had no idea all of the things that God will require from me to sacrifice in order to walk in this office. Okay, what has been my main encouragement and disappointments? Well, my main encouragement has been um, it's come from two sources. The people that have been blessed by my obedience to God, people who write, like you guys on YouTube, and people who come back with testimonies about how their lives have been changed through the ministry, and also just hearing the well done from God Himself, receiving heaven's validation and heaven's affirmation that I am on the right road and that I'm doing something that is effective and that is making an impact. That's like the biggest thing, the biggest source of encouragement. Also, when I see people who are walking in their callings because of a lesson that I taught, or even a video, or even some mentoring that they have received from this ministry. So those things are encouragements. But on the flip side, I'd also say that people can be the greatest disappointments. Some of my greatest disappointments has come through family and friends who have walked with me a long time up until this point. But when I made a shift and I crossed over into apostolic ministry, it was almost like, okay, she has really lost it now. Yeah. So I guess my main source of encouragement can come from people, and then my main source of discouragement comes from people, particularly preachers, also pastors and people in the fivefold ministry that do not understand the office and the role of an apostle, and who publicly come out against you. I gotta say this, I've also um, been greatly disappointed by the church and the way we are portrayed in the media as some loose, simple minded people. I mean, that's disappointing, but I'm not disappointed in that, because you just kind of learn how to expect certain things. So, anyway, you say, what is the biggest lesson you've learned? Well, I think I'm still learning. Just the reoccurring theme is just to love people through it. Yes, they're going to disappoint you. Yes, they're going to hurt you. Yes, they're going to betray you and leave and talk about you and say all manner of evil against you. They're going to make videos about you. They're going to write articles about you. The greatest lesson, I suppose, is the lesson that Jesus tried to teach us. Love one another. Just got to love people right on through that. When they accept you, when they don't accept you, when they reject you, when they don't, when they embrace you. Just got to love right on through it and obey God and trust God right on through it. So I pray that I have answered your questions, and I pray that all of you are blessed by my moments of transparency. So, viewer, right? What is your greatest burden as you carry the mantle of the apostle? My greatest burden has to do with souls being saved and the church being in the position that we need to be in order for those souls to get saved and in order for people to grow in the knowledge of God. Most of the time, my heart is grieved because of the lack of holiness in the church, the lack of reverence for God, the lack of respect for the Spirit of God, um, you know, things that deter people from coming to Christ. That's my greatest burden. And so, as an apostle, it's my job to establish order in the house of God. And so, usually, I'm greatly burdened by the lack of order that we see now in the body of Christ, with people just kind of running astray and doing whatever in the name of the Lord, and God having nothing to do with it. So, that's my greatest burden. Of course, my heart's desire is always to see souls saved, just as a Christian, as a minister of the gospel. But coupled with the apostolic call that's on my life, um, specifically, my burden is to see churches and ministries and individuals even line up and walk in divine order so that we can be in position to receive the harvest of souls. Um, yeah. So anyway, they continue to ask questions. Do you think the call of the apostle has affected your personality? I tend to believe that who we are, who we are as far as our personality, I believe that grows with time. But I have had this personality all of my life. I've been outspoken pretty much all my life, um, and I was a natural born leader. And so I'm not gonna say it really affected my personality. It just helped to highlight what personality I already had. Even as a child, I was a leader and I was very mature. And usually, I was responsible for making sure everybody was taken care of, and people kind of took to me as a big sister all the time because I would just be the one to make sure everybody was okay. And so that has carried over into my my ministry and who I am as a woman of God today. So, moving on, she asks another question. While you were yet a prophetess, did you feel that God had more or greater for you after a while as he pushed you into your apostolic office? Or were you taken by surprise at the new mantle? Ironically, I was a bit shocked when God first began to deal with me concerning the apostolic call on my life, because my goal in ministry was to be a prophetess, and that was as high as I was able to see. I never saw this apostolic dimension until it was pointed out to me. Do you know you're doing the work of an apostle? I thought I was just obeying God. I had no clue that what I was doing was even the works of one with an apostolic gifting. I just felt like this is what I do. This is what comes natural to me in ministry. These are the gifts that God has graced me with, and this is just what I do. I just go to churches and I help them set up order. I just type manuals about protocol and about licensure and about policy. That's just what I do. I didn't see anything apostolic in that. I just thought that was one of my administrative gifts coming to play. Not realizing that an apostle does have strong administrative gifts. But it took another apostle to say, you know what? What's interesting about you is that you are very gifted prophetically, but I don't really see you as an apostolic prophet. I see you as a prophetic apostle. And at first mentioning of that, I was like, no, that's okay. I don't want all of that. I don't need all of those titles. I went through hell to get to prophetess. And I'm not saying that as a profanity. I literally went through the pits of hell in order to be able to carry the mantle in the office of a prophet. And so to even hear a suggestion that God was calling me even higher, I'm going to tell you, I wasn't excited about it. I was like, oh man, so you mean I'm about to go through more stuff? And indeed I was. So yeah, it came as a shock to me. I always saw myself growing in God and working in ministry and preaching and traveling and establishing and building. But I didn't know that establishing and building were the works of an apostle more so than a prophet. I was just doing, like I said, what came natural to me to do in ministry. So, thank you for those questions. I pray that I have answered them. I'm not going to take long on these videos, just kind of give you a little bit. Just kind of touch on the subject. You know how I do. But of course, you're always welcome to email me if there is more and you want me to go in greater depth. But I will say this, the book is coming. It is being birthed through a lot of pain and a lot of revisiting old places. And Lord, I'm telling you, it's a process to write when you got to go back and remember things. But the book is coming. It's being birthed as we speak. So pray much for me, and I'm going to turn this video off and go on to the next one. But I pray that you have enjoyed those comments that I made. And that you're also enjoying Jesus and all his joys. Thanks for making ministry possible and keep watching.